Former US Defense Secretary Robert McNamara's thinking on nuclear war radically altered during his term of office in the early 60s under President Kennedy. McNamara's story on TVS at 10:40. Now the national and international news at 10 o'clock.
The Red Army celebrates its out of Afghanistan. The rebels mark their prey and close in. The Kabul government is still fighting. For how long? Opinion in the Commons hardens. Mrs. Curry must give evidence. And the Prison Officers Union says, we've settled. Good evening. The Soviet Union says it's failed to find a political solution which would end Afghanistan's civil war. ITN's 4 correspondents report on how that's happened after 9 years. The last big convoy of Red Army troops, 30,000 in all, crossed the border back into Soviet territory today and got a hero's welcome. Only a few hundred are left behind now, and they'll be gone by the end of the week. Britain's former chargé d'affaires in Kabul, Mr. Ian Mackley, said the Afghan president should go with them. The Soviet Foreign Minister, Mr. Shevardnadze, and Pakistan's Prime Minister, Ms. Benazir Bhutto, said their talks on a peace settlement had ended in deadlock.
This was the final chapter of the 9-year war, the last convoy of soldiers crossing the river that divides the Soviet Union from Afghanistan. They leave behind just a token force to protect the airport in Kabul. Most of those returning today were young conscripts, having fought a war that few of them could have understood. The military adventure that Brezhnev began in December 1979 is finally over, the Red Army acknowledging its defeat. They were greeted by children and the families of veterans of the war. As the formal ceremony marking this convoy's return took place, there was little time to think of the cost. The 13,000 Soviets killed, the 30,000 wounded. The military rituals took precedence instead. Some gave out bread and salt, the traditional gifts for soldiers returning from battle. Others found a moment amid the formalities for privacy. But relief not just for these men, but for the Kremlin too. The withdrawal had been completed ahead of schedule, despite harsh weather and the occasional guerrilla attacks on the road from Kabul. As the tanks rolled past the crowds and the Western press, the joy was genuine. The soldiers who fought this war will be giving little time to ponder the country they left behind, or the fate of its still warring factions. Robert Moore, News at 10, the Soviet Union.
News at 10, Sandy Gall has travelled widely in Afghanistan during the 9-year Soviet occupation. He's made 3 separate tours of the country, reporting for ITN and producing documentaries on life under the Soviets. He's now back in Afghanistan as the last of the Russian troops leave the country. Throughout the week, Sandy Gall will bring you ITN's Journal from Afghanistan. Tonight he's on the border with Pakistan and he presents 3 aspects of the war. He's been with the Mujahideen rebels as they battle to retake their homeland. Paul Davis is ITN's reporter in the beleaguered capital, Kabul. And our Moscow correspondent Ian Glover-James has been on the northern border with the Soviet forces.
The Mujahideen have waited 9 years for the Soviet Union to withdraw, and despite the prospect of more fighting ahead to dislodge the Kabul regime, their mood is one of optimism. The arms convoys ferrying in weapons to the Afghan Mujahideen show no signs of slowing down. In fact, in the eastern part of the country, supplies are running at an unprecedented level as the backers of the Afghan resistance make sure that their allies have enough hardware to overthrow the Kabul regime. Here, guerrillas of the 7-party alliance set out to attack a government post near Jalalabad. Multi-barreled rocket launchers are now common among the bigger groups all over the country. These mujahideen are fairly typical of the lightly armed, poorly trained groups who, even after 10 years of war, and despite the mediocre but well-armed opposition,